are on Investing in Kenya, and today we are looking at what comprises GDP. You want to watch this because if you skipped those economics classes and you don't quite understand how this impacts you, I want you to understand this. So if you run a business, want to ever start a business, please subscribe and stay tuned and watch these videos because John Jumwa is helping me unpack this. He's my colleague and friend, and we both work at Faida Investment Bank, and he's an investment analyst who's going to take us through this. And John, I want us to start now. And I want us to look at GDP and the composition of GDP. So we understood that it's, total number of total products produced, the quantities of products and services produced in a certain period. But how, what are the key sectors or what actually composes this GDP? Yeah.
So every country has different economic activities that support GDP. So in Kenya, we have an agricultural sector. This is basically just a sector of the economy, a part of the economy that produces agricultural produce. Then you have a mining sector that is focused on producing minerals. You have a financial services sector that's focused on providing loans to businesses, insurance that is focused on providing protection to people. You have a tourism sector that's mostly focused on providing a service to tourists. So how we get GDP is that we look at these different economic activities and we try and measure the output in Kenyan shilling terms. So for instance, in agriculture, we look at the value of the goods that have been produced. If we go to the financial services sector, one of the ways we look at it, we could look at the profits that are being made by the financial institutions or the loans that are being disbursed. If we go to the tourism sector, we look at tourist arrivals, we look at how well the hotels are being occupied by these tourists. So if we aggregate all these sectors, we come up with a final figure for GDP. Yes.
And so when I look at GDP all over, in other countries, because we don't operate in an island, we are in a globe, and it's become a global village, really. I get the impression that we're so small. When I look at the US, for example, GDP in 2016 was $18 trillion. In South Africa, it was $294 billion. In Nigeria, GDP in 2016 was $405 billion. In Kenya, in 2016, GDP was $70 billion. So $70 billion against 405 in Nigeria, against 294 in South Africa, and 18 trillion in the US. Doesn't sound like much. So when I hear, GDP has grown 5.3% in Kenya, and in the US, GDP has grown by negative or plus 1%, it doesn't sound exciting when we talk about growth of GDP.
Yeah.
Why is it that we, or rather when I say we, I mean reporters, business reporters, sound so optimistic? The World Bank sounds optimistic about Kenya when they say it has grown by 5 billion, and yet the figure is so small, 5%, sorry, and yet the figure is so small. Maybe you can just shed some light where that's concerned.
So GDP is mostly a quantitative thing. So it's a numbers game. So for us to feel the impact, we need to see it in our lives. We need to see quality of education has gone up, quality of healthcare. We need to feel like, it matters in our life. And this is where we need to distinguish between economic growth and economic development. So for economic development, it's more of the qualitative things. And for that to happen, the institutions in a country, by institutions I mean the bodies that have been placed to be able to bring this qualitative change, like county governments and parastatals, different government ministries, it's their duty to be able to bring and trickle down this GDP growth to the common mwananchi. So sometimes you find that there are problems with efficiency. So we have distribution of this is not well done. So that's why sometimes you don't feel the impact. Another thing, it could be GDP growth is concentrated in some sectors. So currently in Kenya, agriculture contributes around 27% to GDP growth. So if that sector just grows by say 4%, there's going to be a massive impact to overall GDP growth. So sometimes that concentration might not see other sectors benefit. So like in the last few years, we've seen a lot of focus on the construction sector with the SGR. And so while that sector might grow, other people in other sectors might not feel the impact as well. Yeah. Okay,
thank you for that. Next, we will be looking at what should you be investing in. What sectors are looking like they're going to be exciting in the days to come. So stay tuned, subscribe, and share the videos. And please stay tuned. This is Rina Hicks, and your MoneyWise, where we create, grow, and preserve wealth.